Let me know when we're live, Bill. Okay.
Are the lights in here different, or is it just because I was outside? Just like that.
I don't know, looks similar to me.
You feel like it's dark, like that half looks dark to me.
Now it's really dark.
Okay.
It must just be the light from outside.
Hi. Okay, we're ready whenever you are.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, well, we'll call to order this meeting of the Finance Committee. Bill, would you start by doing a roll call?
Yeah. Wilkos,
Here,
Jackson,
Here.
Nairo,
Here.
Norman,
Here.
all present.
All right, great, thank you. First item of business is the minutes of the May 2nd Finance Committee meeting. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
can I amend that motion to make a change to item 1? On the packet that I had a mistake.
okay, so, but you're seconding,
I'll second.
okay. And yes, now corrections, because I had one too that I think Bill has already made.
Yeah. The approval of minutes from the April 18th. It says moved by Ramsey,
Oh, yes.
seconded by Olson.
Yep.
That's
That was
important.
Carried over from a prior meeting. I'll make that correction. Can check the notes and make the correction.
Okay, that's a good catch. And then I had a correction, which I already talked to Bill about earlier today, and that was just the bids and quotes. Award of proposal to Bruce Company for, it should be ornamental bed maintenance, not seasonal downtown planter maintenance. Any further corrections? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes of the May 2nd, 2023 Finance Committee meeting as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Next is audit of the bills to be paid. Bill, do you have any updates for us?
Just to note that there are two items this evening. The first is ratification of the bills from May 3rd. We had an error with the way the report pulled for the last meeting. So Michelle Marks had sent it out a corrected copy, which is before you. And then the bills for May 16th. There are no additions tonight.
Okay, no additions tonight. Can I get a motion to take those two actions? Ratifying the bills from May 3rd and approving the bills for May 16th.
I will make a motion that we approve the bills for May 3rd and the ones for May 16th.
Bill, do we need to specify we're ratifying May 3rd?
I can indicate that in the minutes if that's the intent.
Is that the intent?
That is the intent.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can we get a second?
I second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion or questions? Did you have a question you wanted to ask about the?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I just had a question about the drunk driver surcharges. Who exactly is that?
I can try to answer it. Drunk driving surcharges are imposed on every person in the state of Wisconsin who's convicted of drunk driving. We are required to impose it, and the money is transferred. I don't know if it's done by the court or it's done through Bill's office, but it gets transferred to the state agency that administers the program.
Yeah, and you'll see in the notes for that item on the report, there's Dane County Treasurer and State of Wisconsin court fines. So we collect that and then pay it on to those agencies.
Okay, I guess my question was, so is these people who are in violation of drunk driving, these courses are the courses that they accrue?
Yeah, my understanding is it would be individuals that are convicted of drunk driving through municipal court, and we're levying those fines and then paying that portion of those fines onto the other agencies. Does that answer your question?
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Bill? If not, all those in favor of approving the motion to ratify the bills for May 3rd and approve the bills for May 16th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Moving on to resolutions, we have 5. First one, Resolution 2023-27, support for a Dane County Collaborative Charging and Fueling Infrastructure, Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Planning Grant, and this comes to us from staff. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
And I will second this. All right, discussion. I just want to say that I love that this resolution supports actions in our comprehensive plan and our sustainable city plan. And I love that it follows through on council's commitment to get to 100% renewable energy by 2050, if not sooner. Hearing no questions, let's vote. All those in favor of approving resolution 2023-27, support for a Dane County Collaborative Charging and Fueling Infrastructure, Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Planning Grant, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Number 2 is resolution 2023-28, amending the 2023 capital projects budget for the Middleton Springs Drive reconstruction project, and this also comes to us from staff. Would like to move approval.
I'll move approval. Focus.
Okay, and since I'm on Public Works, I will second that. All right, discussion. I'll mention that this is a capital item carryover from 2021, carried into 2022, and now into 2023, because apparently the bids have always been much higher than we had budgeted. And also Bill changed, if you scroll to the next page, the resolution itself, Bill changed the account number, or the version that will be approved has the correct account number.
Yeah, I've got the corrected account number in the version for signing. We just had, this is a general fund account number, and that would be a capital projects number. So we'll have that corrected on the final resolution.
Okay, and then I had one question for Sean, and that is it CIPP pipelining or CMP storm pipelining? Because March 21, the packet for that meeting has it as CIPP.
I almost fell for that again. It turns out to be both. So it's a corrugated metal pipe existing, and CIPP is a cast-in place pipe that we were trying to use for the rehabilitation, where it's essentially a flexible membrane that we put into the existing pipe and then inject it with resins to make it hard. So both.
All right, thank you for that explanation. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving resolution 2023-28, amending the 2023 capital projects budget for the Middleton Springs Drive reconstruction project, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Moving on to resolution 2023-30, support for installation of snowmaking infrastructure for the cross-country ski trails at the cross-country CXC Outdoor Recreation Center, Federal Land and Water Conservation Grant. This comes to us from PRFC, and it's the first of 3. Can I get a motion?
I will make a motion to move ahead with resolution 2023, supporting the installation of snowmaking infrastructure.
Okay,
I second the motion.
thank you. Any discussion? Kylie, I appreciated that you shared with us through Bill, I think the answer to the question of, do we have a match to provide? And if so, how's that going to be funded? So it looks like all funds are going to be covered by not us. And yet the city will oversee the project. All right, any questions, comments? If not, all those in favor of approving resolution 2023-30, support for installation of snowmaking infrastructure for the cross-country ski trails at the CXC Outdoor Recreation Center, Federal Land and Water Conservation Grant, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Moving on to our 4th resolution, the second in this group. It's a resolution 2023-31, support for the construction of a timber frame pavilion at the trailhead of the Middleton Bike Park and CXC Outdoor Center, Stewardship Local Assistance Program Grant. This also comes to us from PRFC.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'll second that. Questions? This one too is going to be, requires a match, but the match is going to be provided by the CXC Foundation. So no cost to the city. Okay, all those in favor of approving resolution 2023-31, support for the construction of a timber frame pavilion at the trailhead of the Middleton Bike Park and CXC Outdoor Center, stewardship local assistance program grant, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Moving on to our last resolution, the third in this group. Resolution 2023-32, support construction of a multi-use trail within the cross-country ski trails at the CXC Outdoor Recreation Center, Recreational Trails Program Grant.
I will move approval of resolution 2023-32.
Okay, I will second that. Any discussion? Like the others, there's no cost to the city for this. Okay, all those in favor of approving resolution 2023-32, support construction of a multi-use trail within the cross-country ski trails at the CXC Outdoor Recreation Center, Recreational Trails Program Grant, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Moving on to agreements and contracts, we have 4. First one is amendment to agreement with Golf Creations for Prairie Hole Number 2 renovations.
Excuse me. I will recommend approval on behalf of Pleasant View Golf Committee.
Okay, get a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? And I understand the advisory committee did approve this last night?
Yes.
Great. Okay, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving amendment to agreement with Golf Creations for Prairie Hole Number 2 renovations, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Moving on to agreement number 2, agreement with Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corp. For Lakeview Village Apartment Solar Plus Battery Storage with EIGP 2021 grant funds. I think this comes to us from staff. So I'm going to move approval.
I second the motion.
Thank you. All right, any discussion or questions? Kelly is here if we have some. I did have a couple, Kelly, if you wouldn't mind going to the microphone. So I'm just wondering, what kind of final report can we expect from this project? I'm particularly interested in getting a concise report with recommendations for how to transfer this type, the lessons learned from this project to future similar work.
A case study prepared by Elevate Energy and WHPC is part of this grant. So that will take place, I'm expecting, before December 31st, 2023.
Okay. Great. And I'm on workforce housing, so I think that would be a good presentation to have at some point. All right, any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of approving the agreement with Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corp. For Lakeview Village Apartments Solar Plus Battery Storage with EIGP 2021 grant funds, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Moving on to the agreement with Raymaker for design engineering services for EV charging infrastructure planning and construction management at 3 city sites. And this comes to us from the Public Works Committee.
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
I have some questions though.
Okay, do you want to second it?
I'll second it.
I'm going to go with Alder Lorman since he has questions. Okay, so we have a motion and a second discussion.
Yeah. Did receive some correspondence from citizens in the area regarding this project. And the question really was, they want more, more aggressive build out. And I guess the question is, doing the work the way it's being done now, if there's going to be a need for more growth and development in the future, are we tearing ground, pavement, sidewalks, infrastructure up to only have to do it again, in another 5 years? Are we being aggressive enough, or, to really meet growing future needs?
Yeah, that's a great question. This project includes planning for future build out for the next 5 to 10 years. That's part of this agreement. And so in addition to starting EV build out to adequately supply our EVs that are on order right now, we'll be looking at building upgrades that we may need to do to support multiple charging stations at each of these 3 sites, plus other city sites. So that'll be a part of this, and we'll have the designs drawn up if necessary for building electrical improvements to support that. And the reason the planning is a part of this project is so that we don't put in one station and then realize later, oh, we need to actually have, 6 here and we have to rip things out and do it all over again. We want to make sure that anything we do install during this project can just be added to in the future.
Thanks.
Okay, and any other questions? I do have a couple. Kelly, okay. So
in the fund that this $30,000 will come out of. And so we thought of that when we wrote this proposal and talked to the contractor about that.
okay, and what is the source of this funding?
It's leftover funding from solar installations from 2021, in which we had such a great rebate from Focus on Energy, and the prices for those solar installations had come down so much from original bids that we were able to have a $100,000 surplus from that project.
Okay,
And it was reallocated by council for this purpose.
thank you for that refresher. I had a couple of suggestions or questions about the agreement itself. Looking at page 28 of the document, and at the very top, it says contact Madison, Gas and Electric for any additional drawings. I thought that was an odd way to refer to MG&E. Later on the same page, OPCC is partially defined. I think it's opinion of probable construction costs. That's in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th bullet of the page. And then 2 bullets after that, it says attend 2 meetings with committees and or the public. Should it say attend up to 2 meetings, or is it pretty certain that we're going to need 2 meetings?
I'm not entirely sure how many meetings we'll need. I think some of that will be dictated by what we find and which committees it needs to go to.
Okay. And then on page 30, it mentions construction at the very top under phase C. It says construction administration for level 2 charging installation at 3 city-owned sites. And I know the 3 city-owned sites is pretty firm. I thought at the public works meeting, there was discussion about having flexibility for Raymaker to tell us maybe we don't need level 2 chargers at all these locations. Maybe level 1 would suffice, or we might want to. Do you remember this?
Yeah, it does provide, Raymaker knows that they may find that there's different types of charging that could be installed at either place. It's pretty open-ended now, and the city doesn't really know what we want or what we need. And Raymaker can't know until they do a survey and look at it. So it was left a bit open in hopes that the planning stage will iron that out. And budget constraints, level 3 chargers can be up to $90,000 each and require significant infrastructure before you put in the charger. So we may have to make certain decisions based on that.
Great. Okay, thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the agreement with Raymaker for design engineering services for EV charging infrastructure planning and construction management at 3 city sites signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Moving on to number 4, annual agreement with Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection for services to enforce required weights and measures regulations. And we referred this to ourselves at our last meeting. So can I get a motion to, actually, I want to do this in 2 motions, because we considered this last time and there was consensus on going forward with the agreement itself. But we deferred action until Sean could track down what the process is supposed to be for us recouping our costs from businesses. And June 15th is deadline for returning the signed agreement to DATCAP. And this is on the consent agenda for the council meeting. So I'd like first to have a motion to approve entering into the agreement with DATCAP at a cost of $5,250 in 2024.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I will second.
Thank you. Okay, discussion of that. None, all those in favor of approving the agreement with DATCAP for services to enforce required weights and measures regulations at a cost of $5,250 in 2024, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The second part of this is recommending that the city begin to recover the weights and measures costs from businesses, starting with the $5,250 owed to DATCAP in April of 2024. Someone like to make that motion and then we can discuss.
So you'd like a motion to,
For us to go, now that we know what's expected, and there's not much expected from DATCAP, for us to actually charge businesses to recoup those costs.
so you'd like a motion to proceed that way? I would just like more information at this
Yeah,
point.
I'm just sort of thinking along those lines. It's,
Well, we really should start with a motion. We can always vote it down if you get more information and don't want to approve.
I mean, last time we talked about this, it was really, city would have to put in systems, administrative, something, some mechanism for.
So I guess what I'll say is I'll make a motion to refer to L&O. Because I think that would be where this would go.
Right.
So I will make a motion that we refer this to L&O for an ordinance in order to levy costs on. So that would be my motion.
Yep, okay.
Costs on businesses.
I will second that. And now discussion, and I have a question for Bill and Brian. So can we refer directly to L&O without going through council or, yeah, okay, great.
I have a question. I thought, oh, sorry, go ahead. Could you just tell us a little bit more about?
Sure. So I did find some things out in the last couple of weeks from DATCAP staff, most of which I included in staff comments here. But also they gave me a list of other municipalities that do assess the costs that are charged to them. And so I grabbed a handful and just looked on their city web pages for the ordinances that they have to support that. Many of them were very involved. One was pretty straightforward and simple. And so I had provided that to our city attorney. I think we could model an ordinance relatively easily on what City of Verona is doing, if that's the direction council wants to proceed. And then I followed up with DATCAP staff to say, we have not been getting hourly reports, and some of these testing, some of these measurements at various businesses have varying, amounts of effort put in by staff. And so they said, yeah, they can give us a report on how many hours of effort each business is getting, which seems to me the most fair way to apportion costs then. So that sounds like it could be pretty straightforward.
Thank you, Sean. Any other questions?
I just have a follow-up to that. So we don't really have an idea of what amount would be per business. We would all just depend on getting these hours of effort first to figure out, because there is such a variation of our businesses.
Exactly.
Businesses.
And some of those businesses have more needs than others
Right.
and therefore more benefit than others, but we would just be passing our costs along to them.
Great. Okay. Bill, did you happen to capture the motion?
I had the motion as to refer this item to License and Ordinance Committee
Okay.
for consideration of drafting an ordinance to recoup the fees.
Related to cost recovery.
Did they-
Ordinance related to cost
Cost
recovery.
recovery. Okay. All right. So if there's no other discussion, all those in favor of that motion? Yes.
I guess my concern is I wish we had better information to decide how much is going to be per business. I mean, if it's a drop in the bucket, is it? And did you figure out how much staff time it would take for you to bill out and do these things?
I don't think it would be a lot, it's probably in the ballpark of a few hours, because if we can get a breakdown from DATCAP, then it's a matter of generating 18 invoices a year. That's not really a
Presumably,
lot.
once it's done,
Yeah.
forever.
Well, till the next year.
For the next,
Could vary annually, but the
Yeah.
process is completed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
so
So
it's 18, I'm sorry,
It's in that ballpark.
18
right?
invoices.
Could be a couple dozen.
At about, how much, an hour per person to do that, maybe, or more? Mailing it, shipping it, or mailing it, emailing it, and staff time and
An hour per
person,
business?
or, no, invoice for staff to generate an invoice.
Sure.
Takes-
I'm just saying, it's $5,000, what's the human cost on our
I'm
staff?
thinking
to
a
do
mail
this?
merge.
I just think in the bigger sense, we have the capacity in the course of a year to take that on.
I mean, I'm all for recouping funds, but, $5,000.
Yeah, someone who's good with mail merge, having the data and the letter already written, this is like an hour.
once the process is in place,
But
once the process is in
once the
place.
process is in place.
So there's going to be a little bit of a headache up front just to get the process started, but after that.
Yeah, like anything, but we generate invoices for lots of things. This would just be one more.
Okay.
Okay, then back to the motion. All those in favor of Alder Wilkes's motion to refer this to LNO for consideration.
For cost
But
recovery.
For cost recovery of weights and measures, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so LNO has this now to look forward to. Moving on to miscellaneous, we have 4 items. The first one is recommendation of assessments for Parmenter Street reconstruction. This comes to us from John.
Right. I had not turned over my piece of paper, so. Right. Ordinarily, we do assess for road projects. But ordinarily, when they're funded by TIF, we do not assess for road improvements. And so we have Parmenter Street coming up. Our share would be funded by TIF as a TIF project. And so I just wanted to ask the council if there's interest in me beginning the process for assessments with this project.
Thoughts? I'm,
Bearing in mind that one of the largest properties to be assessed would be the golf course, which is the city.
Oh, I'm sorry, Larry. This is Parmenter Street north of Century Avenue.
Sorry.
Larry, I had that same confusion because Pleasant View Road was mentioned and I was, yeah.
Yeah, because that's another city portion that's funded by TIF, but we did choose to assess for it. And I think largely because Madison is assessing for their portion, whether it's in the city or in the town of Middleton. And so we just wanted to follow suit. So it's maybe an outlier of our TIF funded projects.
And how many other roads that have been TIF funded have not had assessments? I mean, like, is this
That's a good question. My recollection is fuzzy, but it's probably in the ballpark of, a handful.
handful?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm of the opinion, if we don't have a written policy saying we would not pursue assessments, we don't have a policy. And I'm inclined to be consistent with what we did for the Parmenter Street reconstruction.
Wait, are you mean Pleasant View reconstruction?
Thank you.
There's
The other
too
one,
many.
the other one with the P.
Because that's
Yes.
another fair
Well, I have
point.
Pleasant View Road underlined in my thing. Yeah, I'm inclined to be consistent with what we did for Pleasant View as we approach the reconstruction of Parmenter.
That's been the difficulty. So Parmenter Street south of Century Avenue, which we did in conjunction with WISDOT, was not assessed. And so, yeah, that's my confusion.
Mhm. Anybody feel strongly one way or the other? And I understand the assessments collected would go back into the TIF fund.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
guess they would, yeah.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
that would be our practice, that since the costs for the projects are being incurred by the TIF, if there are assessments, that revenue would stay within the TIF. That's how we're handling Pleasant View Road. And that may be part of why the city's practice in the past was to not special assess for TIF projects, because that wouldn't be a general revenue, or it wouldn't offset borrowing for that's supported by tax, general tax supported borrowing. It would be a reduction of TIF revenues. And so I think the city in the past has taken the practice to utilize the TIF to complete the project without covering that cost for the TIF.
Oh,
Okay. All right, so who would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion
A motion to approve assessments for Parmenter
to
Street?
approve the assessments for Parliament Street.
So we have a motion to approve assessments for Parmenter Street reconstruction. Do we have a second? I guess I'll second that.
I have one more question. When was
Go ahead.
when was the south of Century done?
that was 2006.
Okay, any further comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion to approve assessments for Parmenter Street reconstruction, or approve the concept of assessing for Parmenter Street reconstruction, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Item number 2, allocation of $16,300 in American Rescue Plan Act funds for the purchase of Badger Book electronic poll books. And this comes to us from staff.
I'll make a recommendation that we approve the allocation of 16,300 in ARPA funds.
Okay, and I will second that. Discussion.
I just was.
We have time.
Never mind.
Okay. Yeah, I prefer to do this now rather than waiting until we approve a 2024 budget, you know, just because we've got the funding and who knows what'll happen with the availability and
Well, that was
price.
going to be my question is,
Yeah.
what else can we spend ARPA on right now? But yeah, that was the snide way of saying it. I apologize.
Yeah, and if I may, just to add to that, so normally we would wait and bring this request as part of the budget process. The reason that we discussed bringing it forward now is just that concern about potential availability, because we've seen the supply chain issues with technology purchases. And there's a concern that if we wait to the budget process and order these in January, when lots of municipalities are ordering these, there could be a delay in getting them. And we want to make sure we have them in place for the 2024 elections.
Is there also any concern about ARPA funding being pulled back?
There have been some discussions about that I've heard in the news, that wasn't our primary motivation for bringing this forward. It was more the thought, if we have the ARPA funds available, let's get the materials while the technology is available to order.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, then all those in favor of approving the allocation of $16,300 in American Rescue Plan Act funds for the purchase of Badger Book electronic poll books, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Item number 3, Finance Committee appointment to the Stormwater Utility Board. So our ordinance says we need to appoint a member of the Finance Committee to serve on SWUB. And they meet the third Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. as needed. They've met so far 3 times this year, and last year they met 7 times, and they have a hard stop at 6:30 because Water Resources Management Commission meets right after them. I think this is going to be an important position because we do have on our short list of strategic plan items, figuring out how to extend or make permanent or improve our stormwater utility fee. So I spoke with Alder Jackson and he has kindly agreed to take the position. Would you like to nominate him?
I do. I nominate Alder Jackson for stormwater.
Great, and we don't need seconds for nominating. I checked Robert's rules. And if there are no other nominees, technically, we don't need a vote. I can just declare you our representative by acclamation. But in case there's somewhere buried in our ordinance requirement, I am going to call a vote. So all those in favor of appointing Alder Jackson to represent the Finance Committee on the Stormwater Utility Board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Alder Jackson. And thank you very much. This is going to be an important role. And Bill, if you would notify Eric Sorensen, who I don't think is here, that would be terrific. And then lastly, we have the 5-year street improvement plan, which comes to us from Public Works and Plan Commission and Pedviken Transit. Who would like to recommend approval?
I recommend approval.
Great. I will second that. Discussion. So the recommendation from the Plan Commission, and I don't know if it came through Pedviken Transit this way, was to approve the 5-year street improvement plan as recommended by the Public Works with street design consistent with the city's complete streets policy. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Verbiage? Okay, I am too. So if there's no, and my understanding is this, and Sean, can you help us understand? So this is the plan, but you still have to come to the Finance Committee this year with details on which projects are going to be done, how much it's going to cost, and get approval for that.
Yeah, so this is really high level, broad brush cost estimating kinds of stuff. We don't have design in mind yet for any of these roads. Well, for most of these roads, resurface, it's pretty straightforward. So right, this helps us with budget preparation and it helps us coordinate with the county.
Okay, great. Thank you for that explanation. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the 5-year street improvement plan signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of motion to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you.